Okay, then we have talked about a number of things, triangulation, different methods, and how important it is to do it properly, and the type of methods that you pick. I think it has now come to a point where after I execute all this, what do I do with the data? How do I start to make, as you say, meaningful claims to knowledge? Because I think that's quite important, because that will now let me know whether or not I've done the flipped learning properly, and also to help me, give me ideas of how I can make it better. So what do I do? What is this animal called data analysis?
Okay, you're trying to get out of reading the section in the online tutorial on data collection and analysis. Okay, I'll give you a bit of an advance to organise that.
Sure.
Different methods will result in different types of data.
Of course.
If you've got a standard questionnaire, it's quite easy. It's numbers, and so that's what's attractive about it. Mm-hmm. But it's a little bit like assessing students. If you're assessing just factual content knowledge, you can use true, false, multiple, and it's very, very easy to deal with that data. However, if you're dealing with students' perceptions, students' feelings and those kind of things, more kind of deeper things, and you've got qualitative data where students are saying things to you like, sure, well, when I was online and I just felt, I couldn't talk to anybody. When you're dealing with those perceptions, what you need to be able to do is to collect those different statements from the students, what the students are saying, the more open response data. And what you have, and this is a problem, you can end up with masses of this qualitative data.
What I want to avoid.
So that's it. Yeah. You can't actually, if you've got a large number of student responses, that you end up with this massive data. Right. I remember doing, different qualitative research projects, and literally the carpet in a room is full of things. So the thing is, you've got to try to come up with some categories. Okay. So there's different ways of doing this. One is that you look at the responses and say where it appears they're saying the same thing. In other words, if they're saying the system wasn't user friendly. So you've got a category there, user friendliness. And if you've got students sort of talking about a lack of feedback, so any responses that relate to that, feedback becomes a category. So the idea is to get this massive data. And the big thing is data reduce, until you get to some key categories.
So you're saying I need to identify trends or patterns, or?
Yeah, you look for patterns, you look for categories. Now, obviously, you've got to be careful here that you don't just
overgeneralize, that's right.
So, and it does take a little bit of time. The idea is there certain key categories, key themes that are coming out? In other words, the students are saying, love the videos that you're putting on, but they're too long, or I'm looking at the videos, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking for. So that could be the way they experience the video. Right. So there's different things about that. Okay. So eventually, once you get these categories, you can then start saying, well, what can I interpret about that? Now, the nice thing about research is that it may be possible that as you're collecting data and doing this categorization, questions are coming out. So you could actually go back to the students and say, look, quite a few people have talked about not having enough guidance with the video. So you might ask them, well, what might help you? So as you do this data analysis, it can raise questions. Now, you might not be able to answer, you might not be able to go back in the present research, but the important thing about research, it's an ongoing process. So when you write it up, you can say, look, there's some interesting areas here, and further research could look at this area in more detail in relation to these types of questions. Okay. And that's why sometimes you do research and you might do it several times. So you might present the same research at conferences. You get a lot of papers that way, and you keep building on that and refining it so that you're building knowledge yourself. Right. And as that research is going on, you're looking at what other people are doing and you're connecting to them. And that's how people develop their own expertise in the field. They do bits of research and they build on that and they connect it to other people's research, and eventually they write the book. So 2 or 3 years time, your publication could be the book on how to use flipped learning in vocational education, and that will be not based on one piece of research, because you actually start
number of times.
That's right. Okay. And then that's how you do it. It's a bit like developing competence in anything. You learn some basic skills, and so with your first research, if you can get some good insight into the use of the flipped classroom. That's pretty good. That will be potentially a paper at an international conference where you can contribute some good questions or new insight on practice, and over time that can develop into a much more into some kind of conceptual framework for the design and facilitation of a flipped classroom learning event.
Okay.